and welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Overwatch Underground, where I do detailed VOD reviews on specific players with a leaning towards getting ready for the Fantasy Overwatch season. I love stats, I love VOD reviews, and today we are going through, well, you guessed it, Na1st. We aren't here to watch GOATs as much as we may love it or hate it, but here you'll see Fusion Uni Team Envy. This is how far back we have to go to see Na1st win a playoff game in Korean Contenders. After Na1st, we'll go through Aztac to round out the two new Toronto Defiant rookies. So, let's do this. To start, Na1st is a projectile player. I have a clip here of him on Hanzo, missing a few arrows, not being overly productive. He's not known as a Hanzo player, and I just start with this clip to show that he is not some mechanical freak. He isn't a hyperflex who plays everything, and his Hanzo leaves a little bit to be desired. Granted, this is back when Fusion Uni was 3-4, having just moved to Korea after one of their longest winning runs ever. There's further here a clip of him playing Pharah on Ilios, and he's going against Yaki, and we get Yaki's POV here. Amazing tap here from Alarm, by the way, getting shot, shooting Yaki here. The reason I show this clip, and I don't mean to get Na1st off to a bad start here, he loses the Pharah duel to Yaki pretty quickly. The reason I show it is because Na1st is a player a little bit like Flower in Who Are You, who has, some people have a huge amount of hype for this player, and I don't mean to crush the hype, but when I go back to some of the peak times that Na1st had, at least post GOATs on Fusion Uni, he wasn't amazing. He was going against some of Owl's current best, MVP candidate Yaki. And you may even argue this is past Na1st's prime, when he was amazing pre-GOATs, but I do see a little bit of a risk on the overhype element that even when he was kind of at his best, he still wasn't as good as some of these legends. And when I read the Na1st fan club, some of them seem to say, yes, he was the best of all time on some of these heroes. That said, I like Na1st as a player, and I'm not here to say he's bad, because he definitely is not. Going at full speed here, we have a really nice clip of him here on Genji, still on Fusion Uni, and you'll see a lot of clean mechanics here. I love the throwback here to Hisu playing a good Widow, but you'll see he dives in, and maybe not perfection because he misses one slash here, but he knows the outer range of the blade. He dodges some cooldowns from Gangnam Jin, who we obviously know is a very good flex support player, and after his blade is done, he gets the damage in that he needs to. So I am a fan of his Genji. Even though I showed him losing a duel to Yaki, I think he is a very good Pharah, and on these staple projectile heroes, he is extremely solid. On top of the projectile play, he actually also has a Tracer. At the Korean Contenders level, I'd say his Tracer play is passable. Here you'll see a really nice stick, and I think efficient use of his pulse bombs is probably the trademark of his Tracer that I've seen. In this particular match, I believe he was outplayed by Stalker on the Tracer, who's a very good Tracer. And I don't think, when you compare him to players like Heesang is the first one that comes to mind in Korean Contenders, I don't think he has elite tier Tracer play. But I bring it up to say that I think he can flex onto the hero when it's needed, although whether that will be successful at the Owl level or not, I'm a little bit doubtful. I have one more Tracer clip of him to show that overall, not just on this hero, but in general, he's a very smart player. He has a window to use a pulse bomb on a Zarya and knows better. He also could go after the dangerous backline Brig, but also sees that that's a lower likelihood of success and smartly follows his team's focus and takes down the Rhine. So nothing amazing mechanically, but just good smart play on a hero for whom he shouldn't even be considered a specialist. You all know I love stats, and here I have a visualization to see where he would fit onto the lineup with Toronto. First of all they have is Hisu and Logix, who are obviously two hit scan players. And so Na1st will fill the projectile role on this team. I don't think he has any competition on the Pharah or the Genji. He also, one of his comfort picks throughout 2020 has been the Mei. I think he is a very solid Mei, And on that hero, I think he is probably above Owl average, although he's not to the level of high tier play that we've seen from players like Ivy comes to mind. I don't put him in the top tier of Mei players, but it is a comfort pick. And from a fantasy perspective, as we know, Mei doesn't output as much damage as other DPS heroes. So I think if he continues to comfort pick Mei and potentially even off meta play the hero, it could cap his fantasy ceiling. That said, the Tracer is interesting. If Logic struggles this year in a way that we don't expect, then I think Na1st could come in and play the Tracer. But I do think Logix has the better Tracer from what we've seen in Owl over the past couple of years. It would take a major jump in skill or a major degrading in skill for Logix to have Na1st really become a starting Tracer player for this team. Na1st does actually have a Sombra as well, but when you're on the same team as Hisu, I don't see that being something that's applicable. To conclude, if I'm looking for a comparison player, I actually think Who Are You might be the closest comparison. Na1st carries a fair amount of hype, and I think it's possible that his best days of Overwatch might be behind him, but that said, coming into the league, they may also not be. I think he'll be a solid contributor, but I do think the projectile DPS role will be a weakness for Toronto when we consider that they've been ranked very highly in power rankings. We've got the power rankings here from Fish Ghost, who hosts the Hero Pools Twitter account that I absolutely love. Check the link, show notes for that, as well as flashing up on the screen here. But if we're comparing Na1st to some of the other top tier teams here, I think projectile DPS does become a weakness when you're looking at other guys like Yaki, when you're looking at the Shock, when you're looking at the Gladiators. I just don't think he hangs with the very top. But that said, let's move on to flex support. So let's transition over to Aztec. Aztec is on the team WGS Phoenix, and if you aren't familiar with Korean contenders, they have long been at the top of the particular league here. They've performed well, and even if it hasn't been in every single playoff performance, they are definitely one of the top 3 Korean teams. Aztec has been the flex support here for a while. Previously, before he was on loan from Uprising Academy, and then on loan to the team from Uprising Academy. So the first clip we have here is nothing insane mechanically, but he lands the perfect nade. We'll do it in extra slow motion here, and if we pause it, you'll see the nade comes through. He throws it before the shields have even been popped, which shows a very good awareness from Aztac as to when those shields are breaking and giving Runaway as little time as possible to react. He gets revenge. You have 3 players purpled. I'll cut to the next clip because I bet you can guess how this one went. The next clip is from Afrika TV, so I apologize for the low quality here. And here we'll see Aztac come through against Team BM with a 2-kill. GBS, one of the best flex tanks here, does a really good job with his flux. The screen choked up there for a second, but Aztac deleted the enemy Roadhog as well as protect the enemy Sigma. And then during all that, he also dodges Haven's Tracer play. So we'll watch one more time. Watch the health bar of the enemy Roadhog chunks him. That's what a right-click headshot does. He cleans up Protect, and then of course dodges the enemy Tracer. So they're not playing a top-tier team, but when they aren't, Aztec really stands out here on the Zenyatta. When WGS was in top-tier play, I don't think Aztec really stood out in comparison to other flex supports. For example, I might rank him slightly above MCD, who's also going to Owl, but neither of these players are head and shoulders better than everybody else like we saw from players like Alarm. May not be a fair comparison, but I expect both MCD and Aztec to come in as mid-tier flex supports. So, in this particular clip, it goes by rather fast, but you can see that Aztec trances a little bit late here. If we slow it down just a little bit, Freak is always a little bit iffy here, so I apologize if we have some kind of issue. But you'll see that IM37 dies pre-trance to Heesang, who's an amazing tracer on Element Mystic. I don't blame Aztec at all for not preventing that kill, but you'll see that as the fight progresses, after IM37 has died, that he trances when he's not under any kind of immediate danger and he's not saving his team. The main idea being that Heesang doesn't yet have a pulse bomb, and he's on the opposite side of this room here. He's definitely being threatened by Heesang, but his health bar hasn't dipped too far yet. And he uses that trance, he rushes to his team, doesn't really heal or save anybody. The team hadn't tracked Heesang's ult well enough to know that that pulse bomb was coming. And when it all is said and done, they lose the fight, partially because Aztek dies shortly after using that trance. So a little bit of an iffy trance usage, not the proudest trance that you'll ever see. When facing other top tier play here as well, we see Aztek on the bottom of the screen on the Zenyatta, looking to get some volleys on the opposite side and get in damage. Mag over here jumps in and gets some damage in. You'll see the hack come through and Merit with a very timely hack in combination dive with Mag. In slow-mo, you'll see Aztek does get first death here. Maybe doesn't get quite the help from his main support as he should, but in the end, when you're looking at top tier play from some of the other top tier players, Aztek dies with the trance while being hacked, doesn't respond quickly enough or just allows himself to die. And just in watching a lot of game film of the team play, Aztek regularly just middle of the pack, solid flex support, not making amazing plays, regularly to rescue his team like I showed in previous videos with Faraway 1987. But, he belongs. He does belong in Owl, no doubt. If we look at his Liquipedia page, there's one key thing missing here, and it may be a little bit dumb to mention his Moira, but you see his Ana and his Zenyatta. Over the course of 2020, I saw a lot of Aztek playing Moira, and he does it very well, even off meta. Very smart player on the Moira, well above average on the hero, and really stands out to me. Yes, I know it's Moira, but when it comes to fantasy, Moira is somewhat the cheat code because of how much Moira puts out damage and healing. Moira scores far more than any other hero in the game as it relates to fantasy points. So the fact that Aztek was willing to play the hero off meta and also plays that hero well, which means he's more likely to get more time on that hero, this is one of those things that could make Aztek a little bit of a sleeper pick because Toronto will be achieving. They will be, at worst, I think, a mid-tier team. And when you have a high-performing player on a mid-tier team, even if his Ana and Zenyatta aren't stellar, if he's switching to that Moira, he's going to pump out numbers. And so I see Aztek as a fantasy sleeper, even if I don't quite see him as an Overwatch League sleeper ready to take the league by storm. That about covers it. I really hope you enjoyed the VOD review, as well as the look at the stats. This particular review was done at the request of a user in the comments, and I was really curious on Na1st and Aztek. So I hope you enjoyed. If you have any players you would like reviewed, I am taking requests. Put those in the comments and I'll see if I can't prioritize those. This has been Fantasy Overwatch Underground, hosted by D. Holkey. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, if you don't mind liking and subscribing, I would appreciate it. Have a good one, everyone.